Okay, 6:01, I'd like to call the meeting to order, starting with the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now a moment of silence as we think about those who've gone before us. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mayor Allen?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Ryan?
Here.
Trustee Lewis?
Here.
Trustee Pine?
Here.
Trustee Murphy?
Here.
Trustee Patton?
Here.
Trustee O'Malley? Also President Attorney Gilchrist.
Outstanding. All right. Just a very few updates. I know, Ben, it's a surprise, but this is just a few updates. Woodsbrook, we did finish, I know. I think, I can't remember if we had finished it the last special meeting. We had finished the closing at the last special meeting for what do we call it, 100, 108, 110?
10.
It was 110 because there was a couple questions with the numbers. That's the smaller building next to the bigger brick building. So that is another one that the village has picked up, and we are moving towards closing on yet another one. I'm working on getting in contact with the owner to schedule closing, so I have not heard back yet, by the way, Andy. After this one is done, then it will be sort of resetting to see how much funds we have left, what else we can target. I know there's one property where we want to have just a small portion of the land because it's up against the Woodsbrook, and we're moving on that as well, but that's it for the Woodsbrook update at this point. I plan to do a more hefty update probably in February. In terms of the phone system in the municipal building, I have done a fair amount of work and spoke with a bunch of people about this. I'd hoped to have some quotes tonight, but I'm not going to do that. The phone system that we're going to be switching over to is no longer going to use the standard phone cable. It's all going to be through the computer network. So I'm trying to use this as a way to rewire all of the stuff in the municipal side of our building and over here in the courtroom as well. Right now they were just kind of wires that were run at some point in probably the ceiling, and then as more computers were needed, more wires were run, and now it's kind of a mess. I know the PD, when they redid some of their stuff over there, they ran all the wires and it looked really sharp. So I'm in the process of getting some quotes and figuring out exactly what needs to be wired, and we're thinking not just about what we have now, but what we could be using in the future. So I'm hoping at the next meeting I have some quotes for rewiring. It'll probably be around $1,000 to $2,000 depending on how many wires we have to run. And we have a line item for improvements in the office area, which I think has a little bit over $6,000 is what Denise told me, which is also where the folding machine is going to come from. But
When you say wiring, you're only talking about the communications wiring, correct?
just the network
Right, but not
running,
not
right.
wiring.
Right,
Electrical.
right, not electrical wiring. And the overall gist is right now we have somewhere between 15 and 25 individual copper lines that we pay various amounts for and various taxes and fees for, and by switching over to the voice over IP protocol we'll be saving a whole bunch of money. We just have to rewire and make sure our infrastructure is okay. So more on that next meeting, but a lot of things are in motion, and Jackie's been very helpful. Let's see here, discussion. We had talked about setting up a meeting to discuss the chicken law, and I honestly could not remember which trustees were interested in having that.
I was on that.
Thank you. Okay.
Bobby and Vanessa.
All right. So
And
I know
Jason
that
and Jason and
Jason and
town.
Sarah are out of
Yeah.
town,
He's
so
in Mexico.
I'm gonna shoot an email to all of us, and we'll maybe try to set up a meeting so that we before the next February meeting. I just want to put that out there to get that. Thank you, Bobby and Vanessa, again. I wanted to bring up, and give me just a moment while I bring this up, and just bring it up on my phone and email. One of the things Kevin had been asking me about was how we had handled disbursements for Hasty 3 and Youth Center, and I asked Denise to do a little bit of digging, and I just want to report what we've done in the past on this. Sorry, I meant to have these numbers ready sooner. Forgot how many emails we had back and forth today. It was a lot of emails back and forth today. Okay. In the 2016-17 fiscal year, we contributed $3,000 to Hasty 3. In the 17-18 fiscal year, it was the same thing, $3,000 to Hasty 3. In the 18-19 year, we did 3,000 to the youth center. And this current year, we have 3,000 budgeted, and I know we had discussed possibly doing $1,500 each to the youth center and to Hasty 3 this year. That's, I think, in a sense, Kevin, what you wanted to discuss tonight. So we have the 3,000 budgeted. That's what historically we have done. That's what.
Well, Hasty 3 doesn't exist anymore. Now it's just called the Hoosick Armory. But I got the request from the youth center for the funding again this year, so I don't know where the Hoosick Armory stands about asking for money, but I do know that the youth center has asked for the funds again this year.
Okay.
The Armory hasn't officially asked for anything?
They have not.
I don't know what the current organization is at the Armory. I don't know what they offer for youth,
I mean, they offer pickleball and,
which is awesome.
Yeah.
I want to get there, but
and they've offered the building to different organizations, I think, for free, nonprofit organizations, so.
were these monies specifically for youth type endeavors?
I don't think we had any control over what happened with the money, I don't believe.
We just sort of budgeted and paid it each
'Cause
year.
part of it was wasn't part of it for?
Actually, we used to fund the youth center
For the
yearly
salary.
for a long time, and then the youth center closed, and then it opened back up again, and we actually were giving KBC 3,000, and then we decided to split it after
15 and
there's
15,
another request, right,
Right.
15 apiece.
Is the Armory still a charitable organization? Non-profit?
I don't know.
So-
Mark, do you know
Mark,
that
can
answer?
you give us any information on what the Armory organization is right now?
Yeah, I mean, I just signed a check that says Hoosick Area Partnership for Youth, and so it's still Hasty 3, as far as the check that I write goes, and.
Is it happy?
There,
Yeah.
Happy Group?
Happy, I think
Yeah.
is the other, is the youth center is the Hoosick, Hoosick Area Youth.
No, Happy is was the Hasty 3.
They were part of Hasty 3.
Happy was like the parent,
Yeah, so,
company or whatever you call that.
Organization.
Hasn't
that
the
one.
school partnered with the youth center as well?
The school is, I think, leasing the
Aren't
youth
they-
center
'cause they
to
do
use
a
it downstairs
class, right?
for some educational
Right.
purposes. Yes.
So the town is supporting, well, we support Hasty 3 because we're there,
Right.
Does the
Okay.
town still have a funding for the youth center as well?
yes.
Yeah.
14,000,
Did Hasty 3 reach out to the town for money?
yes.
So they've already got it?
They asked, and I said, you have to put it, we've done it, this is the second year, I guess. And just maybe put it in writing, put the request in writing before budget time so that we could get it in the budget.
Of course, your budget time already transpired, so they may not be having it on our radar or on our budget season yet, because we're just about to hit it.
Right, we just got the check.
I mean, when we have the money there, it would be easy right now to just say, to give at least 1,500 to the youth center, since we've done that in the past, and we can either check back with Hasty 3 or wait for the other 1,500 to disperse. How do you guys want to handle this?
I think that seems
I think,
prudent.
isn't Hasty 3 going to eventually, isn't Hoosick Rising or some form of Hoosick Rising going to become?
I think they've already changed their name to Hoosick Armory. They don't call themselves Hasty 3 anymore, but I don't know what their nonprofit, whether they actually changed the name of their nonprofit
Yeah,
organization.
I haven't been to a meeting.
To join with Hoosick Rising.
The last set of taxes that I could get out of Hasty 3 was for 2016 fiscal year.
The last set of what?
990 tax forms that every 501c3 is required to file was for 2016. There's nothing on record past that. And in 2016-17, they showed loss.
Well, I know when right before things hit the big change, there was a lot of discussion in the board meeting, so I can get back in touch with the board and find out exactly what's going on, what the plan is. I think in my mind we should definitely pay the 1,500 to the youth center now, and then wait to see what we do with the other 1,500. How do you guys feel about that?
Sure.
Yeah.
I think the first request came back in October, November, so I think I sent emails to everybody back then, and so I think we should take care of that now.
Yeah,
Yep.
I
Yeah.
agree with that.
Motion would be okay. So I guess I'm looking for a motion to pay the $1,500 to the youth center, as we have done in the past.
Motion.
Kevin,
Second.
Ben, thank you. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great, motion carries. Can you make a note for me to follow up with them before the next meeting? I will try to follow up with them and get some information before the next meeting. Thank you. That's it for updates. People to be heard section. As a reminder, we record every meeting for public records, and they end up on the YouTube. I just said the YouTube. I just dated myself like 30 years. I'm so sorry. What? Then the Insta Snap on the interweb, and yeah, okay. So just to get an idea of how many people would like to speak this evening. 2? Okay. I don't think I need to set a time limit because this is 2. So who would like to go first?
I'm waiting for Mr. Burgess, but
All right. Well, he can go first if you want to wait. And as a reminder, please say your name and address for the record.
Kevin Allard, 5421, State Route 7, Hoosick Falls, New York. The village's website,
Yes.
how about an update on that?
What kind of update are you looking for? Just a general update?
Well, it seems to be under construction.
I mean, it's always been under construction. It was
Well, I
under
see we have
construction
new-
since before I got it.
Page now in front, but it doesn't seem to be up to date.
Are you talking about the villagehoosickfalls.com or the new space we bought that haven't migrated to yet?
The Hoosick, villagehoosickfalls.org.
That's the new space we haven't migrated to yet.
Okay.
That's in the scheme of things to do. That is one of my goals. Brian and I were working that together before Brian had to step down because Doofus moved outside of the village lines. And I can say that, so you know. But no, that is still on my list of things to do. But we've had some more pressing things with projects and other things going on.
Very good. And in your December meeting for your community work group there, DDC was gonna present some numbers on air emission.
Mm-hmm.
Did that take place and what's the status?
It did take place
Did the presentation take place?
at the community working group, yeah.
You guys got it before the rest of us, right?
It was open to the public.
I mean, it was a public meeting, but I think I couldn't make the meeting.
Christmas, you know, which is-
I personally didn't get to attend it.
I didn't make the meeting. I got a little bit of a blurb ahead of time on the same day because I knew I couldn't make the meeting because I had a concert or something that night.
Is there gonna be any effort to make that presentation?
Yeah, I'll get that online the next day or two.
Well, either online or at a village board meeting, town board meeting, or whatever. Or
We could
different-
certainly do that. I know Ian was gonna come tonight to present on something else, but he was sick, so he couldn't make it out. But yeah, I can get some more information on that and some people here to take questions. It was interesting. It was very technical. It seemed. Well, I don't want to speak for it because I took a lot of notes and I haven't reviewed them since. Yeah, I'll follow up with Ian and see if we can get someone out here too.
Consensus at the meeting was that it was all good.
That was the general gist was that there were very few chemicals detected and it seemed to be at small amounts, but I was confused because the whole time they'd been saying that it wasn't going to be quantitative. So I was a little confused about how the conclusions they were pulling, but we can get them back out here. But it did the general thought from all of the experts was good news. No PFOA coming out in any way that they could detect, and I think there were a couple known and unknown PFAS chemicals. But there's some questions that if some contamination had messed up some of the results or something like that.
Basically shorter chains.
Yeah. Okay, I have something else I'm gonna see if I can read through and get out to you later, but alright. Anything else?
Last thing is.
Yeah.
The village contributes to the youth center and the town contributes to the youth center. Please, if you could discuss with the town supervisor that when they pay out of a town outside village fund. Because if it's a town-wide fund, the people in the village of Hoosick Falls are contributing about 30% to that. And if you turn around and do that, you're contributing also. A town-wide fund is taxed town-wide. Revenues are collected town-wide. That means that the people in the village are contributing to that.
Got it?
That's like a 30-year-old complaint that I have.
Got it. Alright. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Yep. Do you want to speak? Do you both want to speak?
Jay Burgess. I own the remaining lots on Easy Street. This is May. You can come up, Meg, just
Alright.
introduce yourself.
My name is Meg Beardsley. I live in Colony, New York, and I just purchased a property on Easy Street from Mr. Burgess.
Okay.
And I guess in 2016, the village revised their foundation construction laws, and they went to a 4-foot frost wall, and then a slab on top of that. Easy Street was exempt in years past, and they did a 6-inch slab, because all the homes up there are HUD-coated homes from the government. So when they changed that, they left out Easy Street, which is okay at this point in time. We now have, because of the government and HUD since 2006, different slab requirements, foundation requirements. No more 6 inches. Now we have a frost-free slab design that's put up by the builder, approved by the state of New York, signed by an engineer. Cost-wise, the 4-foot frost wall and then a slab on top costs some more than what we do now. This print, I can, let's start by giving you guys some prints. It's just so she can get her building permit is what it's about.
So did you buy property or a house up there?
I closed on property on
Okay.
November
And she
27th.
wants, yeah, and she
Okay.
wants to build one.
Yeah,
I don't know if you want
Okay.
to pass these out.
Okay.
And what happened was in 2016, when the village revised, if I'm right, Mark? And the village revised their law, going to a 4-foot frost wall, which is fine.
Send that way.
But New York State and HUD code says, I don't know how many guys want these,
Well, the actual, before we
I
got
can
the
come with
law,
you.
was part of the
Share.
code.
You can send another one that way.
way back.
Here you go.
Here, I'll take one more.
And
How many more you
Thank
want?
Got it.
That's
You got
fine,
the
I'm
house?
willing to
Okay,
share.
I'm out.
I am buying a house from him.
So it's a modular.
And the day before I closed on the property, my lawyer sent me a deed that I had to agree to, and it just said the cement slab for the double-wide mobile home that I want to put there.
Which was passed back in '99.
And I have that paperwork, actually, if you'd like to see it.
What this slab is approved by New York State and HUD. And what it does, it's a frost protective all the way to the Canadian border. It's 14 inches deep on the outside. It goes to 6 inches in the center. It has 2-inch blue board, as most of you would know, as an insulating factor. Each area, you have to go around the whole outside, and if you go way up north, then you have to start panning out as far as insulation. It's just, and what HUD code says is the builder provides a slab foundation construction. If the builder provides it, gets it approved by the state, then HUD prefers this over a 4-foot frost wall. So I mean, we do these throughout every county that we deal in as far as New York, all of Vermont, Massachusetts, and that's about our area. We don't go into New Hampshire much.
Okay.
So I mean, it's approved by the builder, and that's the main thing. It's approved by the guy that's building the house to put it on the slab.
Okay, so if I understand this right, the issue is back when the Easy Street development went in, you guys operated under sort of a different approach for basement, which was approved and whatever in
Yes,
the code.
yeah.
And then the code redo in 2016 didn't include that?
Didn't include it, no.
Okay.
It kinda, that, for lack of a better word, they forgot that Easy Street had already
Had
been.
its own setup.
Right, but that's okay, because Easy Street was going under a 6-inch slab, which everyone used back then. Since then, to stop frost, HUD turns to the builders throughout the United States, not just our builder. Our builder's in Utica, New York, to say, okay, what are you going to come up with to stop frost? And Champion Homes, which is Titan Homes, came up with this print, approved back in 15. Had I known that things were changing in 16, I'd have brought down the print and said, this is what we can still do under HUD and under New York State.
So this plan, the 2015 plan, is still okay
Yes.
over new HUD
Oh, yes.
requirements? Okay.
So why is
Yeah.
HUD involved in building code of New York State?
HUD supersedes all building code, New York State, county, town, whatever. What New York State says is, if the builder of the home or any engineer that gets it approved by the state of New York can use this print, then it supersedes. HUD supersedes insulation code, roof load, wind zones, and everything.
Okay.
Now, if you turn to a modular, okay, we're talking HUD code double wide. We don't allow singles in the village. That is HUD. If you go to modular, which is called BOCA, that is New York. Then New York says, this is what you have to have. That is different. That is stick-built piece by piece. You lift it off a carrier. You then place it on a full foundation. That has to be designed by a New York State engineer like that was. So that's a little different. There's HUD code and there's BOCA or CABO. Depends on which one you want to look up.
Mark, do you want to, or Andy, do you want to chime in on anything so far?
We have reviewed it, and what happened is, the building codes go back to 1977, you can correct me.
Yep.
Started out in 1977, their project is 1999. In 2001, something changed, where the village, did an amendment to the 1977 zoning laws. Tightened up. You can be more restrictive when it comes to the building codes, you can't be less restrictive. They made things more restrictive. But at the end of this little addendum they made to the 1977 law was an exemption, specifically for the Burgess development, so that they could continue to do the projects, the homes the way that they were doing them. The building, but it has to be by New York State Building Code. So he's right in what he's saying, because the New York State Building Code has changed, and the slab that they're talking about now is the new code, so it would have to be like that. When we updated, so that addendum to the 1977 law was from 2001, and
you're doing a good job.
all right, so with that specific, just taking the Burgess project out of it. So they were working on something else at the time. I'm not sure what. So anyway, when we updated the zoning law in 2016, we repealed the zoning law of 1977, which had this addendum, which gave them the exemption. All right, so and that was, I think, an oversight. Nobody was aware of it.
Yeah, I never even knew it was.
So if you go up and take a ride around the development, which I did, there's only one house up there that has a full foundation.
That's
that I
one
saw.
modular up there. Yeah.
But you know, it's an excellent development. It's very clean. Homes are maintaining their values.
Just need some street lights.
No.
So that wasn't part of the
That's a separate
original project.
discussion.
To
Separate
cut to the
discussion.
chase, what is it exactly we're being asked to do tonight to help you out? Specifically
where-
within one or two
That's where
sentences?
Andy can come in.
Right, so we'll step through, a lot of this has been accurately portrayed. It was the 1977 zoning law for the village. And then the Burgess subdivision was approved in
99.
89?
No, 99.
99, okay. Actually, the date is 2002. In 2002, the village did adopt an amendment to its zoning law on a lot of particular building requirements, one of which was on foundations. And what it says is, all new residential construction shall be built or placed on full foundations or a suitable frost wall built pursuant to the New York State Fire Prevention and Uniform Building Code with a maximum crawl space of 28 inches. That was the new foundation requirement in the village. At the end of this 2002 local law, there was a specific exemption. An exemption to this local law is hereby enacted for building and placement of new homes on the previously approved Burgess subdivision located on Easy Street within the village. So in 2002, they said, we're gonna put in a new foundation, among other things, requirement, but we're gonna exempt the Burgess subdivision. And you continued on
Right.
the way.
And the reason they exempted it was, at that point in time, the 6-inch concrete slab was code for New York and HUD and those kind of things, especially HUD. The 28 inches is actually a HUD home. A HUD home has a 12-inch frame. We support them with 2 8-inch concrete blocks. Add it, that's how you get your 28 inches. But that's okay. Since then, this new plan has come out.
Right, and we'll get to that.
Right.
So then the village not amended, but adopted a new zoning law in 2017. And it did repeal the 1977 zoning law. So arguably, this was likewise repealed. In your 2017 zoning law, it has the same foundation requirement. It did not carry over the exemption for this subdivision. So one can argue that under your 2017 zoning law, which includes this foundation requirement, any new construction needs to comply with that. They're proposing a different foundation, that's what was presented.
And this is what happened, when I, looking at the law, and I knew something had changed, I didn't know what, so I was looking at the law, and it's like, alright, so as we dug in, then we found what happened.
And had I known, I would have come when we
Right.
were ready to change the law and go, this is what HUD says, and this is what the builder says, and this is the New York seal for it, which would have then just entered into the law.
So I guess the question then is, if the board wants to reestablish the exemptions, what's the process for doing that?
Well,
Just one more thing, Andy, before you get it.
sure.
I know one of the concerns was the roof pitch on a lot of houses when they changed that zoning. Is there?
That changed with it. There's only one 312 house up there. When they changed that zoning, we went to 512, and everything's up there is a 512. And this will be a 512, you can't go below that now.
Yeah. Well, that was a concern back when they changed
When they
the
first
law.
started, because in 1999, the first house that went in, they did not have a 512 roof. And as time goes on, then they went to a 4. Our next house that went in, they went to a 5, so we started with 5s, and that's when the village changed to give it the more residential look of a 512 pitch. Everything up there's got to be 512.
So the process question is a two-part. What do we do if we want to reestablish the exemption? And number two, is there a quicker process for her and her individual situation?
So we'll take the first one first, okay?
Please.
But an amendment to a local law has to go through a new local law. That's just the procedure. Put on my lawyer hat, it's called the Doctrine of Legislative Equivalency. If you adopt it through a local law, you have to amend it through a local law. But that takes a while. It's gotta be introduced, it's gotta be noticed for a public hearing, then it needs to be acted upon. Generally, it's a couple of month process. Is there any way to do this, to meet?
Her building,
Yeah, I have a
Timeframe.
contractor ready,
Right.
signed a bunch of stuff.
They came in for a building permit, that's how it
Yes.
started.
Right, I
Basically.
remember the
That's how this all
correspondence between you and Anthony.
So there's another concept here that I've thought about, and that is, irrespective of the zoning, there's also a legal concept called vested rights. And what that generally means is, if you go in for a project approval, and you obtain your approvals, in this case it was subdivision approval, and you make an economic investment in that project, your rights under that approval vest at that point. And I've had other cases like that where after my client's project has vested, the zoning law changed. And the building department said, we're not issuing you a building permit. And we've argued about that. In those cases, generally, I think the building department was incorrect in their interpretation. I appealed it to the zoning board, and I let the zoning board decide. And unfortunately, that takes a little while, because that's the way the zoning board acts. But the reason I was appealing is because I disagreed in that particular municipality with the building department's determination not to issue a building permit. There is, again, an argument, I think, I'm not gonna render a conclusion on it, but there's at least an argument that this particular subdivision, which got approval in 1999, which has been substantially built out,
yeah, there's only 4 lots left out of
there's an argument,
18 or 20, something like that?
again, if I'm
25, 30.
on the other side, I'd be presenting an argument that my rights under that approval vested, and I'm allowed to proceed under my project approvals. And my project approvals included this particular, now, it gets a little dicey because it's a building issue, not necessarily a layout or an approval issue. I raise this with you just because you can see the issue can be somewhat in the gray area on this one. So ultimately, I think an initial determination by the building department on the building permit application.
I can honestly say throughout a lot of counties, we do all the way up to Warren, below Southern would be Columbia, Green and all. We have run into building inspectors that read, as you do, not the zoning of the village or the building. They read, okay, this is what New York State says. Now, if we present to them that slab print and all, and they go back and look, HUD, our federal government, and New York State have agreed that if the builder comes up with a plan that stops frost, that the home is supposed to be put on, and it's their plan, then the building inspector can decide whether he wants to hold and go, no, I want 4-foot frost wall or whatever. Or, I agree, because it's got a New York State seal on it, and it is what HUD says can still be used, and the builder, then it's up to the discretion of the building inspector. And this has never come into a big fight at all.
Well, and it's not, but because it became a gray area for me, I felt it was important to first talk to Andy.
Yeah,
and
because the zoning changed.
Bring it to the village board and, you know, and make sure that the village board is okay with it too. I personally, you know, he's the lawyer. Personally, I have no issue with it. I mean, what they're gonna do, there's already all those houses up there, it's all good, it's a good
Just a
development.
couple questions. The property you bought has it been improved? Is there a slab there now or anything on that property?
There's city water, sewer, village water, sewer, power.
But
It's in the cul-de-sac.
right, so it's an unimproved property, there's no existing foundation. This is what you wanna put in, this is what the builder wants you to put in. This is
That's what the builder at home.
Right, that's what they're telling you to put in.
Right.
If legally we can do it,
Well, there would be how many lots are left?
After this one, 4.
One thing for the board to consider is a belt and suspenders approach on this, which is, there is initial discretion within the building department. I would suggest you submit everything you've discussed here, which is HUD approves this as an appropriate building technique, a foundation plan, that the state of New York says as long as the building department deems that to be approvable, a building permit can be issued. As long as the building department's record is complete on that, then it would be within your discretion. The second part, since there's more lots in here, is to propose a local law similar to 2002, which exempts the Burgess subdivision, so you don't deal with this on a lot-by-lot basis.
So
The
Andy, what
remaining
if
3
outside
lots.
of the village, outside of that subdivision, someone said, oh, well, you let them do that, would it set a precedent?
It wouldn't, because we'd make the record clear that in this case, there's a historic record on it, and it's a project that arguably has vested rights because the majority of the subdivision's been built out.
Well-
I don't know why this exemption was in 2002, but I can certainly put together an argument. It was exempted because it had started, I'm presuming, you had
Yeah,
your
it
infrastructure
had started
built
in
out.
there, and even in 2002, there was probably 6 to 8 houses up there, and it was just.
Yeah, at that point in
And
time.
at that time, New York State 6-inch slab, HUD code 6-inch slab.
Yeah.
You know, now even New York State will say 4-foot frost wall and all, but they rely to turn to the building inspector, and if you say this is what the builder wants and this is what's approved by the builder, who is a HUD builder, then it's up to the building inspector.
Jay, how many buildings, are up there right now, how many houses, you know?
I'm
There's quite a
getting
few.
old.
I walk up there all the time.
Oh, I know, I drove by the other day, but I didn't even, that was
14, 15, 16,
Yeah,
something
it's
like
like
that.
16.
Something like that. And out of it, there's one modular. And we sell modulars, whatever the person wants, they can have. But it happened during, let's go back to when everything sunk deep in the big recession and all that. HUD-coded homes are still less expensive. Are they built any different? No, they're not.
It's like 18.
But you're not doing a full foundation, and let's get
It's like 18, yeah.
your plumber in, you know, and put a $10,000 or $12,000 plumbing system in. They're just still less cost. And even this slab, as opposed to a 4-foot frost wall, there isn't a whole lot of difference. But this is what the builder wants.
So Andy, based on what you said and the recommendation of if you get all this information in to Mark, and he reviews it and everything checks out, then in my mind,
If the board's
I'm
okay
good
with
with
it,
that.
I'm okay, if the board's okay with it and Andy's okay with it, I have no problem.
I know I
And
stand
it-
before
it-
you, you know,
it's-
as the builder, but it's always been up to the discretion of the code enforcement officer.
Right, and we have to do our due diligence with the weirdness of the law, so in my mind, if that information comes in and you're good with it and everything checks out, then I say, go for it, give the
If
approval.
if we need to do a motion, and we can also make a motion, as Andy recommended, that we look into, to
Is a
amend.
motion necessary, or?
Right, just to authorize me to draft a local law to
To amend,
present.
Yeah.
to amend.
For the future.
To put the addendum on there as far
Yeah.
as,
So I think, does the board pretty much agree that if the information comes in and Mark is good with it, then he's okay to proceed?
I certainly have no issue with it.
No.
Alright, we don't need anything official motion wise on that. Alright, great,
Thank you for your
Okay.
time.
Alright,
thank you guys.
Thank you.
Welcome to the village.
Good luck.
Thank you. Nice to meet you all.
Been walking around,
I've
having
been
pizza.
taking a walk, it's a beautiful little village.
Awesome. Andy, so you would, like a motion from us to,
Thank
draft up a local law to,
An amendment to the law.
Draft a local law for
Okay.
consideration in February.
I'm looking for a motion to, authorize Andy to draft a local law to, in a sense, reset, the exemption for the Easy Street, area.
Motion?
Second.
Ben and Vanessa, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Alright, thank you, Andy, thank you, Mark. That sounded like a lot of digging and reading to figure out all of the old stuff and all the transition
Wasn't too
stuff.
bad, Andy was a lot of help for sure, so.
Awesome. Alright, on to reports. Ben, is there anything you wanna highlight in the treasure report?
Yeah, very busy, December. Letters were sent out for meters that were not reading or working. Big response to those letters, that information passed on to the water department. Some of the transmitters were switched out. Also, the state insurance fund did their annual audit, and Denise has been working with Williamson Law Book for what seems like forever, but it looks like they're at a point now where they can schedule training, which is really, really good for what she's trying to accomplish, so. And don't spend any money, so. That's a personal thing. She didn't actually write that in. But after looking at the bills this month, I would say, don't spend any money.
Sounds good, alright. Looking for motion to approve the treasure report?
Motion?
I don't know who that was that Craig?
I'll second
And
it.
Bobby, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Please report.
For the month of December 2019, total calls for December were 128, and November were 126. Total calls for 2019 were 1,608.
Hey chief, I think that's supposed to be 1598. I feel like there may be an addition issue there. I caught that, I meant to bring it up to you before I printed it, apologies.
Oh, 128 and 1470.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be 1598, it's not a huge difference, but,
Still a lot more than 2008.
yeah,
18%.
14, yeah.
Um,
So 1598, not 1608, but it's only 10 off, so, still a whole bunch of calls.
For arrest report for 2019, were 153 compared to last year. They were down this year from 164. We're still running high on our domestics and EMS. It's 25 on domestic calls in the month. EMS for 33, and there's a list of other calls that are there. The arrests this month were for menacing, code violations, harassment, stalking, obstructing governmental administration, driving while intoxicated, and traffic violations. Mark has been forwarding warrants with our code violations, and we're down to one person that, and I've received a call, she is incarcerated. She'll be getting out in February, her parents have called, and she'll be in February, and that will pretty much take care of all the warrants that were issued on code violations.
Nice,
So we had a pretty good response from people
Nice.
that were following up on the code violations.
that's good, that's very good.
And I just wanna say that, with Nana Kent, Johnny Bombard, Marie, Denise, and Judy, we did Christmas dinners with great success. I talked to the people that received the dinners and the gifts. Everyone was extremely happy with it, and I wanna thank everyone for their help on that. That was really a good time. We've scheduled tentatively for February 21st at the high school is gonna be our mental health training, which we've opened up. I know Mark is gonna attend, or there's gonna be some town employees possibly attending.
There you go, you know.
I've talked to the ambulance, they're gonna be sending people over, as well as the village.
Do you know the times on that?
I'm waiting for Pat to confirm the date, I should have that
Okay.
within the next, week or so.
Village office staff is all interested in doing this, right? I would like
Yes.
to, once we have the date and time, I'd like to officially close the office for that time, so they're free to go do that, not have to worry about office coverage.
And what that is gonna
I don't know if that
encompass is-
requires a motion or not, but.
This is gonna be training for, on how we can deal with mental health cases, not only by the police, but the, employees of the town as well. It's gonna be a really good training, we've got an individual that does this for a living that's gonna be coming up and doing the training with us, so. And it's gonna be like an all-day type training. And we're working on refreshments to be provided by some of our local establishments. The computer's been installed and we're all set, Mayor, it was installed Saturday, we're online. This
Awesome.
computer is for bail reform, not
Still have
bail
the
reform, but
discovery changes.
It's a dedicated computer that will, when our arrests are downloaded immediately and emailed directly to the DA's office, and there'll be a box down there that they can check off on, like, videos that need to be sent. We'll be able to download those videos and send them directly to them, because I've got 15 days from the point of arraignment to provide all this information to the defense attorney. So it just streamlines everything in. There's a little bit of a cost, we were able to take care of it from our drug fund money, and we should be ready to go. Probably just gotta work out a few more kinks and we're ready to go with it.
Awesome.
And then from there is, have any questions on bail reform? I know it's becoming a hot topic here.
I have a question only because, I heard that the legislature in Rensselaer County is trying to do something to repeal certain parts of it tonight at their meeting. I just wonder how that affects us here
A
in the
lot.
village.
They're not going, they can't repeal it.
Right, but they want New York State to either amend or.
They're just gonna send a letter to them saying,
Okay.
hey, that.
So it doesn't do anything yet for,
No.
okay.
And from what we're hearing, it's gonna be a fight. And I know there's been some concerns on when we put this out of what is happening. And I know there's some concerns about that, and rightly so. But if we don't put it out there, we're taking a lot of heat back, saying, why is this guy, the mayor's been witness to a situation here, where a guy put an axe through a window here. We arrested him 2 days later for violating the order of protection, he walked right out the door. We've got an active case going on right now, the guy's been arrested 3-4 times. We just arrested him again last night, 12 o'clock last night. Not only did we have to do the arraignment to let him walk, but we had to contact his attorney and ask his attorney to be here at the time for arraignment. And it's an appearance ticket, and out the door he walked. We got a report that after he left here, that our house was attacked by rocks. We have no proof that it was him. We caught him up on Route 22, walking out of the village. Was it him? I can't say it was. There's no proof that it wasn't, or that it was. So this is just an ongoing situation here. And the victim of that particular situation, has just wrote on Facebook, and she's sending a letter to the state as well, because she feels that her life is in jeopardy and her kids' lives are in jeopardy. We're doing everything we can to
So,
protect them.
I emailed you on that particular, and he's got a arrest warrant in Vermont, but they won't come and get him.
It's a violation over there, and they won't come and get him.
So we couldn't bring him to them, they won't take him?
In the old days, we could, but we couldn't go on the state line without.
Not now, not because of the bail reform?
No, because extradition. I mean, they've gotta,
They
we've
have
gotta,
to do the paperwork?
we would have to forward a warrant, or they would have to forward a warrant to us and say that they want him. And then it has to go to the governor to agree. It's a simple procedure, but they won't do it for that.
Right, cause he just got out of jail up there,
He
right?
just got out
He
of
just
jail.
got out of jail in Marble Valley, I know that.
And we worked pretty close with Child Protective. The parent, the father, is in Texas, and, you know, I talked to him, he called me Sunday night, and, he's hoping to try to make some arrangements to get up there and get the kids.
I think Vermont could do us a little favor here.
So reform, bail reform, in these cases, they're remanded, or they go to the judge, he remands them to jail, and then they have to come up with bail. So they're actually put in jail, which serves, in most cases, serves as like a cooling off period.
Yeah, and on this particular, these two particular cases, I think that if we were able to get them into the facility, number one, they'd get some help that they needed, and two, it would cool the situation down to some degree, and maybe give that victim time to get herself together, or himself in some cases, together to make a plan of how to get through this, get down to family court, et cetera, et cetera. A piece of paper is a piece of paper, and it's very difficult. The mayor was here, he's seen how this guy was acting in the office here, it was very much out of control.
It's very interesting because I understand the concept behind bail reform, but I feel like this change has made awareness of a lot of other issues that may need to be addressed, whether it's specifically revising bail reform or figuring out something, because if there's someone who's a danger to a very clear danger to people locally, the judge has no authority to send them to jail and set bail. They're
An
just not
interesting
anyone.
case to watch is tomorrow morning in Cohoes. Individual was arrested for, I think it was a manslaughter charge. He walked on bail reform, and they're upping the charges to murder tomorrow.
Yeah.
Will he show up or not? He might not even show up for court. I mean, but that's an
So
interesting case.
I understand the reason behind bail reform, but the fact that there are people whose safety is threatened and we are powerless to do much of anything about it is deeply frustrating.
And one of the other issues that we have up here, because where we're located, at 1 o'clock in the morning, when you've got an individual that's highly intoxicated, and you have to let him walk out the door, he lives in Troy, and he has no way getting to Troy, he's wandering the streets here. And on this particular case, with the act, he had nowhere to go. He was wandering the streets that night, and our officers were keeping an eye on him. And of course, that agitated him more because he thought we were harassing him, but he had nowhere to go. So
Can't do like a courtesy drop.
Town line drop,
Like,
state drop.
well, back in the old days, we used
Like,
to bring him over across the state line. And,
Pittstown, here you are.
but it's the
Take you halfway home.
Yeah, we get you halfway home, yeah.
At 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. And I'm not saying we use the jail for convenience, but we had a person that was extremely intoxicated and upset.
Well, no, they need, the
bail
holding
set
cell
on
comes
him.
in handy for that.
He got a place to cool down and,
Sober up.
sober
Well,
up.
even if you put him, I mean, even, you used to be able to hold him downstairs.
Yeah.
You know?
Now I can't even do that.
No, I know.
Because I've got a time frame that's on.
Yeah.
On
I mean,
this here.
So if somebody, if it goes back to the original way it used to be done with bail,
Yes.
if you arrested somebody at 9 o'clock at night, how long would it be before they were able to post bail?
If we made an arrest, depending on the charge, we could usually get an arrest in and out of here probably within an hour, hour and a half. Arraigned and gone. So if he sent from here down to the jail, by the time he got down there, if someone was gonna bail him out, they could bail him out down there at that time. And he could be released.
So isn't that the whole thing about bail reform is because people that have money can get out quick, people that don't have money,
Right.
are the ones that get screwed and they could be sitting in jail for long
Right,
periods of time.
and I agree with what you're saying here, but the problem here is they're taking that discretion away from the judge, whether you're rich or poor, for him to say, you're going down to jail for the night.
But I think some people think that even if with this bail reform, or with bail, they'll be in there for weeks.
And they
But it's
can.
not true. Well, it is.
Well, they can.
If you don't have money.
When you don't have the money,
Yeah.
but the thing of it is too, a lot of those individuals are provided services that they wouldn't get if they didn't go down to jail. And I'm not using that as an excuse to
No,
get
no.
them down there, but they're provided some Medicaid or medical attention, they're provided some assistance for, their addiction they may have. They're also given direction as to where they might be able to get some housing. We have a young man here right now that he comes here every other night, and he has nothing to eat. I mean, the officers are, when we buy him a sandwich and stuff like that, try to get him in some housing or for the night from his stay. I'm not saying the jail would be a good spot for him.
Well,
But-
I'm not, I think it was a hastily done law that they never even really, probably even read. It's pretty obvious that a lot of lawmakers didn't have a clue what was inside the bill and just passed it.
And we can go to petty larceny, which is like a violation, it's on a low scale. You're right, that person shouldn't be going to jail for something like that. But we go on to the higher end, where you've someone that assaulted someone that's on a felony that is walking out the door. And he's intoxicated now, he's upset because his girlfriend threw him out of the house because, for whatever reason, he's so angry. Now we gotta deal with him going back out in the street, and where does he go with that, at that particular time? It can, this particular kid the other night, when we caught him on 22, he just was verbally abusing the officers to the point where, he didn't get arrested again, but he still didn't learn his lesson.
Yeah, I mean, I even called the DA's office after I emailed you and I was talking to Bob about it, and she said, sorry, nothing we could do. And I explained the particular case, and it's just the way it is.
But yeah, there literally is nothing they can do about it.
I know, it's another end of the spectrum, but like, I read the paper, in the New York paper the other day, there was a guy who said, and they let him do it the 5th time, he robbed 5 banks since the first of the year, he's robbed 5 banks. He robbed 4, he got arrested, let him go, and he robbed the 5th one, they still haven't caught him yet.
On the other sad side of this too is, what are we sending, what kind of message are we sending out there? There's no one takes any
You can get away
responsibility.
with anything.
There's no consequences in your actions of what you're doing. Not that a consequence has to be bad, cause it can be good as well. So, but this is a message that we're sending out there that they're gonna just go do what they want. And
Right.
what are you gonna do?
And
I can pick up a person on a warrant, and our thoughts now is, okay, they call me from Colony tonight and say, hey, we got a warrant on Bob Ash for assault. I know when I'm gonna drive all the ways down there, pick him up, bring him all the ways back here, he's gonna get released, and out the door he's gonna go. So do I take the time and the energy and the manpower to send all the ways to Colony to pick him up, to bring him up here, for him to say, he's walking out the door? Someone's better to say, tell him to show up in court. I mean, and they're not gonna show up. They're not gonna do it. I shouldn't say that, some of them will, but some of them not.
Hmm.
Depending on who they are.
Well, thank you. I know we've been talking a lot about these couple cases, so.
Chief, what is, under service calls, what does citizen assist mean?
I was gonna ask about that too.
Lockouts for vehicles, some people might call up and say that, they need water turned on. We have an elderly person that sometimes calls and says, can you help out bring the garbage out? So, we do a report on that, we're assisting people, so
Okay.
the citizens assist.
I just didn't understand what it was, so.
Well, I'm glad I put my glasses on, because I thought it said citizen arrest, and I was like,
That's a lot of citizens arrests.
When I looked at it
Somehow.
quick, I thought so too, Craig.
No, it's
Thank you, Ben.
basically when we're assist someone whose car might have broken down and they called up, or
Yep.
they stopped here at the station and they're asking for, assistance on, getting housing for the night or something.
Okay.
Any more questions? Otherwise, looking for a motion to approve the police report.
Second.
Thank you, Bobby. I'll give that to Ben since he's closer. I don't know why. And
Thank
Chief, thank Officer Swanson for, I know it's in the highway department,
Oh, right,
one,
for the help on
the
the
welding
welding.
project on the plows. That's pretty
He's
sweet.
been
You
taking
took it out of your
care of
budget.
this for us as well. I looked at the highway.
Alright, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries, thank you. Code enforcement.
My report, it says November, it is actually December.
My bad.
It's sort of the same old, not too much has really changed. We're working on the properties that the village has acquired as part of the flood remediation project. I have called National Grid and have work orders started for disconnecting the electric for those properties. So that's in the work for the 5 properties that we have so far. Besides that, you'll see, there are, 46 vacant properties listed on here. 32 are red tagged as uninhabitable. The 46 does not represent all of the vacant properties, there are others. But these are the ones that I've, one way or another, have come in contact with, so.
Active court cases down to 4.
Yes, yep.
That's great. 2 years ago, I remember that was like a huge backlog, right?
Right, and I think, it's what we said it would be.
Yep.
And back then, it's, you start doing the enforcing.
Yep.
And people who don't wanna cooperate, you drag them into court once or twice, they start cooperating.
Mark, you get my
Great.
email on the 5th Street property?
I opened a case, Friday.
Good.
5th Street. Yeah.
It's got.
Someone we've talked about before.
It's been, yeah, and the last time
Oh.
he argued with me,
Yeah,
that place
that
is
is.
done. And they're gonna clean it up. They have
What, it's gone from the side of the house now to the front of the house.
And inside the porch, and it's just, it's a mess.
Okay, so that is on the, cause I know Kevin both, we talked about it the other day, and then we didn't, saw the list, and it wasn't on the list, so it's on there now though, because the board is,
For the Fifth Street,
yeah,
No, it's 19 Fifth Street, I think.
no, that's not, yeah, that's not the one.
Oh, okay.
no, it's not, yeah.
No, because that's an occupied house, so you wouldn't, I don't put that,
Right.
those active cases.
Okay.
That's part of the 101 active cases that I have.
Oh, okay, alright, okay.
The other thing was, the county attorney told me today that, number 1 Center Street's clear, so something can be done with that now.
Okay, we should talk more about that and see,
Yeah.
if that was the original plan.
It wasn't
Somebody
bankruptcy, they
interested.
took it out of bankruptcy, so now either the county can foreclose on it, and, which will probably be sold at auction, or if they have someone else that might be interested in the building.
Someone can buy it.
Yeah. Or,
Okay.
That's good news, cause that's a building, somebody needs to get in there and shore up in a hurry.
Yeah, that's dangerous, for sure.
Andy, and Mark, I see that the last list of 3, requests to take village board action on the following. Would the first step be to get an engineering report? It's 48 Classic Foundation Wall, 82 Elm Street Barn, and 1 Center Street.
48 Classic is our wall over here with the
Right,
sidewalks falling.
right. On Route 22.
Route
Right, I
22.
don't think we need an engineer on that one.
No. Can I follow up with you guys on that tomorrow?
No,
82 Elm.
82 Elm is that barn that's already partially collapsed.
It's in the back, right, set
Yeah, you
back,
can't, from Elm Street, the barn looks completely normal.
right,
You walk around to the back and it's partially collapsed. all
behind the
right,
brick building, right?
Behind the
Yeah.
brick, and, if that's, whatever we have to do legally, if we even get the village in there just to finish knocking it down so it's no longer a danger. I had tape on it at one point, but the tape came down, so.
Yeah, especially with a lot of kids in the neighborhood.
There are kids in the neighborhood, and, it's been like that for a while, but I still think we should get it just at least knocked down so it's not a danger.
What about the one on the corner of Elm and Church? The Capano building,
The old Capano building, what I did is, I got a call on New Year's Day, somebody thought that the wall was bowing more than it had been, so I did go down and take a look at it, I took new pictures, compared them to my old pictures, it's hard to tell, there is definitely a crack on what would be like the southeast corner, so kind of the backside towards Stewart's, and I can't tell from the old, comparing the pictures from, a year ago if it's opened up more. It's not a good situation, the way that building, kind of bows in at the top. There are 2 iron retainers that you can see coming out of the wall, so that's a good thing holding, but at that end, there isn't one. So what I've done is I did, made I classified it with a red tag and just made it uninhabitable for now, and basically told the property management company that I wanna see a structural engineer report on it. So I'm gonna make the bank pay for a structural engineer to come in
Great.
and assess what's going on with that building.
could that, be part of the Woodsbrook project?
We had looked into that as a possibility.
I think it flows right in back of that.
It goes through the back of that property, the culvert does. That was when we looked at it too, but ran into problems because no bank responded to it. The pro of going after that for demolition through the Woodsbrook is that we can get it taken down with those funds. But the con is through the grant agreement, there's a lot of things that we cannot do with that property. So, for example, we could pretty much never build on that unless it were like a parking lot or something very small. There's a lot of rules
All
about
these
it.
properties are deed restricted,
Yeah.
so that they can only be used for open space, flood prevention, very limited structures like a kiosk, parking lot, a sign.
I can't foresee anybody else fixing that property up. I think it just was sold at auction for, the mortgage company.
What happened was, nobody laid claim to it for a long time. It stayed in Capano's name forever. And because I did try to get in touch with like the next of kin, and nobody had anything to do with it, and, well, all this time, KeyBank actually had a mortgage, and they're the ones that finally, foreclosed on it.
Alright, any other questions for Mark?
And not, not throwing my character, but at some point, we gotta do something with that Mechanic Street house too.
The one that we own,
Huh?
the one that we own?
Yeah.
What number is that, 20?
No, it's, 58, I think, isn't it, Mark?
Something like that.
Alright,
Down in that area. You ought to know. That's down in your neighborhood.
Yeah, it's right next to my parents' house. Yeah, I know, it's 58.
alright. Looking for motion to approve the code enforcement report.
Motion.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great, thank you very much, Mark. Good stuff, things are moving. Bug me later this week and early next week on some of these points, please. What's that? Mayor directive to bug me.
I have authorization.
Yeah. Community
Should've got that on
service.
tape.
Yeah, no, it's right there, community service hours, 137, they added a couple things, into their normal, run, which is cool to see. Looking for a motion to approve.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries, thank you. Clerk, deputy clerk report, anything you wanna highlight?
Just the bill payments have been coming in, really been busy, along with everything else going on with the window and regular good stuff,
10 property changes this month.
give or take.
Okay.
Looking for motion to approve?
Motion.
Thank you, Bobby and Craig, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Our, good, fearless leader of the DPW is on vacation.
Yeah.
You wanna highlight anything in the, list there?
They have started to pick up Christmas trees, they'll be continuing picking them up to the end of January, and then they will be, you can bring them up to the transfer station, if you still have them up or whatever. If not, you can still put them just throw out in front of your house and they'll pick them up. Let's see, what else? Oh, I have a question regarding you notes on here, the salvage cabinets from some of the houses at the village, is that from the?
Woodsbrook.
Woodsbrook?
Yeah, and we checked with, the agreement in the state, and it's fine to take a few of the smaller things because they are now.
And we were the ones who boarded those buildings up too?
We boarded up 110, which is the one next to the big tall brick building.
Right,
because the
okay,
windows were
yeah,
taken
that's what I
out.
was gonna say, alright, that's,
And that was all part of the agreement, and that was fine for them to do that and totally appropriate. They put that on the paperwork, and it was fine. So.
Didn't we pass a law about painting those?
yeah, we
We,
did.
we did.
The village is a violation of it.
Uh oh. Talk to
We have
Neil
to wait for it's nicer weather.
to bring that up. Anything else?
Other than that, no, we've had a pretty mild winter so far, and hopefully it's gonna
Keep that up.
continue till this
December?
weekend.
Yes.
Well, if you got a skating, right?
And I'll make a motion to accept the highway department report.
Second.
Thank you, guys. Further discussion?
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Sewer report.
I'm sorry, I was talking.
No,
I
it
made a
was
motion,
Bobby
Craig
and Craig.
seconded.
Thank you.
Sewer reports. Nothing, I think, out of the ordinary. Kenny's been involved.
Sludge was down for the month,
How dare they?
it looks like, right?
Yeah,
Income from the sludge was down
Kenny's
by,
been involved in the sewer project. They did get the pump station in Lyman Street up and running, and all of the hookups for the majority of the flow are now going through there. So that's good to see. Yeah, sludge was down, but I feel like this tends to be a slow season anyway. Yeah, based on the numbers from last year, definitely this was a slowdown season. Oh, you know what? I don't know if I ever did an official announcement on that grant that we got from the state. I don't think I did. I'll put that together in a minute. So unless you guys have any other questions on the sewer report, I'm looking for motion to approve.
Motion.
Second.
Thank you, Ben and Emily. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Water report. A lot of the normal stuff. They did have a GAC changeouts. If you look on the last page, we did finally get what we've been looking for is an idea of how much water is being sold and the income from it. So this is something we'll start building up, an archive as we go each year.
I'm just saying, why is it not applicable?
Just there was no water sales in those months. It's not, I don't think it's ever been a huge amount of income, and I think that one of the things that, Jim was talking about was, updating the meter on there. I have the list, of updating the meter so that, it's all electronically controlled, and each person who comes has their own code. That will also, I think, assist in record keeping. Let me see here, because I know they just sent me an updated one of these today.
Who buys water from
H2O Express.
No, I know pools, I see that, but
Looks
I
like
see in
2
December,
people.
I see 120,
Oh, yeah.
that's why I'm curious, they sell buying ice?
Those are the two companies that they have.
Okay,
So, yep,
just curious.
yep.
Indoor pool.
Anything about the water?
Yeah.
All right, looking for a motion to approve the water report.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. All right, minutes. Did everyone review the minutes from the last regular meeting?
Yes, I did.
I make a motion, we dispense the reading and accept them as presented.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? You wanna abstain?
I'm gonna abstain.
Yeah, I didn't get to read them.
I'm gonna abstain.
Abstain.
I was celebrating my anniversary, so
Yeah, that's
I
fine.
really-
Abstain?
Yeah, I didn't get
Okay.
them.
Alright, so there we go. Still passes, so thank you. We, last week's special meeting, we'll get approval for in the February meeting.
Made up for it the other night.
Alright, trustee committee reports, Vanessa,
Nothing.
Craig,
I have nothing.
Emily,
Nothing.
Bobby,
Nothing.
Ben.
Andy, that sheet I gave you, do I?
Yes,
Is this
I
your
would.
big announcement?
No.
We were on a roll there for a second, Ben.
I was hoping
We
for
almost made it around
the
the horn.
clean sweep there.
Can we let,
You're right away.
let the kids go?
Kids can go, yeah. the
We
kids
need a
can
Let
go.
the
motion for
kids
this?
go.
Yes, cause it,
Yeah, can we let
now,
the kids go?
is that,
Oh, yeah, students, if you guys wanna come, we'll sign off and you guys can head out. We typically let people go a little bit after
You're
an hour.
welcome to stay.
But you can say, cause I know it's riveting.
the dates in there were from
Grab
18 until, or strike that, 19 until it's 8 and 20, is that correct?
Yeah, June 1st through May 31st.
So.
We
part
didn't
of
see
it-
this until, well, it was after October, and then I got this in an email, so.
So oddly enough, part of this is retroactive.
Right.
because and then part of it would be
Future to,
to that particular date. So
Okay.
when you make the motion, it would be to approve retroactively the contract through date, and then from date going forward to, I think it's the end of May.
yes, end of May 2020.
Yep.
Okay. I received this from Urswama Leader. This was to Mayor Allen. County Waste, proud to serve the village of Hoosick Falls, committed to provide the best service in the community. Please accept this letter as our request to extend our current waste and recycling contract for a period of 1 year, beginning June 1st, 2019, ending May 31st, 2020. Pricing remains the same during this period. So, no pricing change, so I would like to make a motion to retroactively accept this county waste and recycling from June 1st till now, and future from now until May 31st of 2020 with no price increase. How's that?
Very good.
Okay. I need a motion.
motion.
I need a second.
I'll second.
Oh, God, I love you guys.
Doing great. Doing great.
So just one question, why,
come on!
why did it take 6 months for them to send us the contract?
I can't answer that question right now. I haven't talked to Matt, so.
It may also
when I
been they
do,
sent it and I missed it, so that's also very, very possible.
So we should be on the lookout for this again in June.
No, if it ends May 31st, I
We
hope
should
we
be
better
doing
see
it
it.
in May.
It should be before
Hopefully
that.
we'll
as a
get it like,
reminder.
hopefully we'll get it in April, so.
Got it.
And actually, I think we should, yeah, I think, I'd like to look, when it comes up in the spring, we need to look into, having a secondary, source as well, like, put it out for bid. Like,
Yep.
I know Tam, was interested in bidding on it last year, and I don't know if we ever put it out for bid.
Problem with Tim is now, they're in the same situation as other places now, because they got sold to Casella Waste and they jacked all their prices.
Oh, they did? Oh, okay.
I do, no, I was just gonna say, I do have a meeting on the 23rd, so if you do have questions or things you want me to bring to Urswama when I
No,
go there.
Just pricing,
Okay.
that's all.
Well, if they have anything, I'll bring it to the next board meeting.
Alright. Great,
Okay,
thank you.
any other discussion?
Need a vote on the motion.
All those in
Yeah.
favor?
You're doing great. You can
All
keep
those in
going.
favor?
All those
Aye.
in favor.
Opposed?
Aye.
I,
Abstentions? Motion carries.
Thank you, Ben.
Sign that, Mayor.
Outstanding. We'll do. Probably not with pen. So
And also, I wanted to make an announcement tonight that I will not be running for another term. My term comes up in March. I will have been with the village for 7 years as a trustee. I have some job things going on where it may require me to go to meetings at night, which would preclude me from coming to the board meetings because that would be my first job. So with the uncertainty of what's going on and it's moving in that direction, I've decided not to run for another term. But I talked to the mayor earlier. No one else knew, well, except for my wife, and she should know. But I wanted to talk to him first and then let everybody else know. So when the March elections come in, I will not be on it. So, okay?
When is the deadline for petitions for that?
Yesterday.
No.
2 weeks.
February 3rd, I believe.
February, yeah.
Although
Well,
Marie might have known, because I kind of said at last week's meeting when she asked about it, that I still wasn't sure, so.
well, I'll say a lot more in your last meeting, but obviously life happens and you gotta adjust to it. But we will definitely miss you on this board. I know I will.
Yeah, who's gonna be the king?
I know.
He's weaning us
I'll have
off
to-
tonight.
I'll have
I
to still
see.
come to the meetings, and that's why I did not respond to your email,
Cause
because
that
I
means
couldn't.
I miss Urswama now.
Not necessarily.
if-
We can reset that.
If you're interested, I would certainly put your name forward at a meeting. But that's why I did not answer your,
Oh.
because I couldn't in good conscience, once I made my decision, say,
Let the
oh
cat
yeah,
out of the bag.
oh yeah, you should really stay on the board. Just didn't seem right, although I will say this, and I did say it to the mayor, if you do run, I think you're a really good board member. You're really thoughtful and caring, and you really do a nice job on this board. The board is good to have you, and you'll continue to do that if you decide to serve. If you don't, I get that too, but I appreciate you. I know everyone else does as well, but I am glad that you're here.
I'll
So.
miss you and I'm excited for your new job opportunity.
Thank you.
Alright, thank you, Ben. Kevin?
I think last
What the hell
month,
are you gonna say now?
I'm all choked up. Back a couple months ago, I called and filed a report with the Public Service Board on Niagara Mohawk, and they called right up after they got the message from the Public Service Department. They came up and fixed a light up in the park that's been out for 3 years. There's also issues with lights in the parking lot, which they came up and took a look at, which they promised to fix. We both decided springtime's probably the best time to fix all those problems that they have, but they're still under the contract with the Public Service Department for fixing our lights. Until that happens, they'll sign off on that, and hopefully they'll be fixed.
Awesome.
That's great.
And the other thing was, at our last meeting, Jim Martinez came about parking issues in the village parking lots, and I went out and took pictures, and and some will tell you about what some of the problems were. You know, you can see in the pictures, but in the last, I don't have one for everybody, but
Yes.
Oh, you got one, different one. Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
But really, what's needed is signs, and you'll see the sign at the end saying that parking is for designated parking spots only.
That's at the end, you said?
There's a trailer there that's been parked there all winter that I don't even think it's even registered anymore. There's cars parking illegally against Martinez's building along the fence there.
Is it this part of the one or is it the postal truck?
No, that, Jim mentioned that the cars are parking against that fence, and
Oh,
there's
okay.
no designated parking spots on there. So we have to do a local law for putting up signs and parking lot, Andy?
We should, correct. Yep.
So the public hearing on that?
Yeah, you can ask him.
Because you're gonna be regulating a village-owned parking lot, yeah, that should be done.
Right.
Does this picture just represent that people are parking here?
People are parking down in the alley down through there, but.
By each house.
Yeah.
Don't do each house.
I will also say there's I think he mentioned, a Jeep that's always on John Street. I drove by there, like randomly 3 times super late, and it was parked there on John
Yeah,
Street.
there's no overnight parking on John Street.
Yeah, I don't know, but it's still being parked there.
The other issue was parking on the Classic Street parking lot across from the library. And that one there was for snow removal, but also for businesses as well. And it's being monopolized by apartment dwellers that are parking in there and filling the parking lot up. Therefore, places like the library or the liquor store or the new restaurant down the street won't have any parking if it's taken by residential users, which actually in some cases have parking, and they're not using that, they're using the village lot alone. So I looked at that one as well, and that one should probably have at least 4 or 5 2-hour parking spots, so at least people.
For business only.
Business only, right. There's pictures of that one
Probably
as
because
well.
that lot's cleared out, of course they're gonna park there.
Yeah.
And that makes sense.
Well,
if it's not registered.
So there's no
They never
designated
go
spots for any kind
It's
of
constantly there.
commercial use, so I would recommend at least 4 of those spots be used for 2-hour parking.
And if we're trying to be as business friendly as we're trying to be, it certainly does make sense.
It kind of smells like we may need a committee to look into this and make recommendations. Yep, smells like that. It definitely smells like that.
Boy, I'd love
Yeah.
to do it, but.
Would anybody like to be on a committee to look at the parking situation and make some recommendations to
Oh,
the
you
board?
can put
local
me
law?
on that committee.
There you go.
Very passionate about
I mean,
it.
Beautiful.
there's also a lot of parking issues with signs leading to the parking spots, because in some cases in the village lots, there's no parking signs that tell you where the lots are. In this case, the one on Classic Street, the sign fell down and the state picked it up and never put it back up again.
Awesome.
And some of the signs are behind trees, and there's no sign for the one behind, next to the Church Street Bridge.
Do you also want to be involved in figuring out park recommendations?
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
All right.
Should you get input from the planning board?
Huh?
Should you get input from the planning board?
Sure. Whomever.
Well, actually, I think we got an email.
We need to
also-
start earlier with a review of what's on the books right now for parking laws and so on and so forth. 'Cause I know we've had to touch upon that with various other things and they're outdated.
We got a complaint from a resident back, it's probably 6 months ago, that with more and more people using John Street and more businesses, there's no place to park, and when there are parking spots, people don't know where to park their car because there's no signage to the parking lot, so I told them we'd look into that back then, and actually it was posted on, I think you were included on it. It was a Facebook post, but he also posted your name on it and mine and Hoosick Rising, so
Yes, I do remember that.
Parking lot down by the sandbar would be nice.
Press release. All right, thank you, Kevin.
What are we doing or
On to old business. I've already discussed the municipal building phone system. I know that Jackie just sent over some quotes to me earlier today to start looking through for whichever service that we're going to choose from. The prices are about the same. So next meeting, I'm either going to have information on how much to rewire the lines, or also I'll have additionally the choices of services that we are going to look at, and so on and so forth. So that's for next meeting. So I'm looking for a motion to table.
Motion to table.
Second.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Vanessa. All right, awesome. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Great. Bobby, I had shot you an email and I can't remember.
Yes, I know you did, I saw it, and I didn't have a chance to do anything with it.
Okay, so
I will follow up on it.
All right, thank you.
I will.
All right, thank you.
I mean, I saw it was today, and it was.
I know it was
they called
today.
out,
It was
yes.
super late, so yeah. Okay.
I will.
In that case,
Conway.
yeah.
Yeah, no problem, I will.
All right, thank you. And I was talking with Andy, so if you want to call Andy and just
Sure.
get an update on things,
Yep.
that's totally fine.
Sure.
I can volunteer your number to anyone, right, Andy?
Absolutely.
There you go, alright,
Office number, sir.
Yeah.
alright, yes.
Just remember his hourly rate.
There you go, there you go. Alright, so looking for a motion to table
Motion
the
to
next
table.
time?
Yes.
Thank you, Ben, looking for a second?
Second.
Thank you, Bobby, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Post. Transfer station, when Neil gets back, we need to set up a meeting to start discussing this and changes to, prices and procedures if we are going to do that for this year. So I don't have anything yet.
That's
new
for
on
those
this one.
bringing to the transfer station, correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
looking into policies, cause there's some policy we've discussed, so I'm looking for motion to table that.
Motion?
Second.
Thank you, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Alright, great. Sewer project. There should be 2 bullet points here because there's 2 things we're considering, not one. The amendment 6 that we had talked about last, special meeting, as well as change order number 6, so my apology, for not having that bullet there.
Killed
So,
a couple trees today.
MRB's, Bill Davis, who's the project manager for this, are you one of the project?
I'm our team leader for the water and
Okay.
wastewater project.
Alright.
So Rich and Dave are the engineers and the project managers on the project.
Alright, so, I know last time we had talked and we were looking for some more backup and a bunch was sent, and I think I emailed to you guys, that information, but if I didn't for some reason, I can certainly go make copies. So, can we talk about the change order first?
Sure.
Okay, let me find that.
So a summary on that is a change order was presented by Louise. We've reviewed it. Chris York, I know when he was out, I think negotiated quite a bit of that in the field. You guys requested that Sterling review it. They did a review and provided some comments back. We are reviewing Sterling's comments. I do think there's some confusion with their comments as to what is additional work and what's not. There was no real base contract that they referenced in their letter. But my intention was to go through those comments a little more thoroughly and make sure that we didn't miss anything on our end with the change order, and then get back to you guys with our comments. And Andy, I don't know if you feel comfortable with that. I think that's
Well, I
probably.
think that's appropriate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so in that,
Certainly,
I'm sorry.
I certainly, don't wanna miss anything on our end. We do feel pretty confident that the change order was fair, but, based on Sterling's comments, I wanna make sure.
We just closed the record on that.
Yeah. And I would just say that, I think you mentioned before that item, having potential to be renegotiated at some point in the
I'm
future.
certainly recommending to the village is any costs associated with that box culvert that was
Yes.
discovered and that includes MRB, contractors, Sterling, be segregated, because that was unanticipated, was not part of the earlier negotiation with Honeywell. Honeywell stepped up and is taking the lead with the department on remediating that box culvert, and we're gonna wanna go back to Honeywell for all the costs the village incurred in connection with the box culvert, so yeah.
Yeah.
To the extent Louise's change order 6 deals with the box culvert, we're gonna want that reviewed, and you'll review Sterling comments, action by the board, but that's one of the costs that will look.
Yeah, my understanding, there was some direction provided by ERM and Honeywell for that change order, so.
Good.
So it sounds like we need to table change order 6 until this goes back and forth.
Is this something that you'll have, if I'm understanding you correctly, is this something that you'll have, information for us for by the next meeting?
Yeah, we should.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would think so, yeah.
I just wanna make sure
Yep.
that
Yep.
that I understand what we're talking about.
Alright, in that case, I'm looking for a motion to table.
Motion to table
This is specific to the change order
to
6.
the change
on
order
number
6.
Okay. Second, thank you, Craig. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I should have said, was there any further discussion? My apologies on that. Okay. Alright, that carries, thank you. So on to amendment 6. One of the documents that was sent, well, there are a bunch. There's the draft budget that's dated January 8th, 2008. This is the most up-to-date, I think, one that was sent. If anyone needs to see this right now, I can pass it over. Andy, in looking over this, I feel like we had wanted to make the simple change of taking out change order 4 in contract 1, which is environmental mitigation, and change order 2 for contract 2, which is also environmental mitigation, and try to put that in its own subcategory specific to the environmental mitigation. Was that something we were trying to do, or we didn't need to do that?
I mean, that can be done. I think it's clearly within the discretion of the board how you want that budget laid out, but certainly there is a line item for each contractor for environmental mitigation, then there's a line item for Sterling. So could it be separately segregated all within the heading of environmental mitigation? It could, but the information is right there on the budget. I think that was discussed, Rob, about just putting them together, but the information's there, that's just a word processing.
Yeah, okay.
Just
Okay.
taking line items out of Louise and J squared and to the extent Sterling and putting them together under a category of environmental mitigation costs.
Sure.
Okay. Did you want to talk through any of the newer spreadsheets that you sent?
Well, just quickly, I just wanted to say, so I know I flooded you guys with a lot of information, I apologize for that, but I do think, there was a lot of information requested, so we tried to provide as much as we could to answer any questions. We provided, an itemization of the environmental mitigation work, for the last 2 invoices first, and then the rest of them today. A list of all the environmental mitigation costs, to date. So Andy, did you have a chance to see that? Is that what you were looking for there? Sorry.
That's easier.
That's okay. Well, first of all, it's not me reviewing that. That's
Sure.
really for the purpose of, my counsel to the board was merely, you need to make sure you understand what's included in that amount, because you're asking the board to approve that amendment for the additional services. And so that was an effort to give the board information so that they understood it, and in large part it was Ben who had questions about kind of that detail last week, so it wasn't so much kind of for me to review, it was really for the board members to fully understand what services have been performed and what addition, or to be performed, and what additional fees are being requested.
Yeah, and I think an idea of just what those costs were from MRB Group on top of everything else that you had, right?
And we also had 3 board members missing.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to even talk about it with not everybody here, so.
And then a spreadsheet was provided for the invoices, and the balance of our contract as of September and through till present, to show you where things have been invoiced since then, and, what of Amendment 6 that's being proposed has been, expended in efforts so far. So you see that on the last spreadsheet. I do have some hard copies here if anybody needs them. And then, at this point, I would take any questions.
I have it on the email, but.
Yeah.
I'll take a hard copy, I prefer hard copies.
These are itemizations.
Did you ever get a response to this?
Yes. Yes. And we'll hit that up in a minute too, but, yeah.
Thank you.
So going back to the original Amendment 6, I'll take a hard copy too if you got them. Thank you very much.
It's called.
Oh, that's
That's the best stuff.
nice putting paper.
Good, thank you.
Do you also have a hard copy of this one right here?
I do. I didn't bring copies of it, but I have one here and you can have mine.
Judy, could you go around and make a couple copies for us?
Sure.
You are awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Craig, do you have a copy of Amendment 6, the revised Amendment 6?
I have an electronic copy of it, but if you have a hard copy, I'll take it.
I don't know if anyone, does anyone have an extra Amendment 6 revised?
Yeah, it's all. in
Yeah,
the
no, that's
email.
okay, I can read it here.
Okay. It's the one dated November 29th. Okay. So the spreadsheet that Judy's copying, Ben, I think speaks to more information of what invoices were related to the Amendment 6. I know when we talked through Amendment 6, do you have that up yet?
Not yet.
Okay,
Go on,
that's
keep
all right.
going.
Um,
I'm gonna listen to you.
There
rather
were
than look.
charges that were already done for work that had to be done related to environmental mitigation. The 31053 was charged to the construction administration budget. Is that it?
Yes.
Thank you. Here, you guys take a look at this here. Probably have to share on those. You guys can share on those.
You're
Okay.
in charge.
Here you go, Vanessa.
So if you look through the first about 4 invoices, they total the 31053, and those were invoices that they had charged specific to the construction administration budget line. And then the next one was 9,776. Those were additional services related to environmental mitigation, and they used that funding from the additional services, which was meant to be concrete something test.
Special inspections.
Special inspections, thank you. After that, there was the invoice for 8560, which they listed out on Amendment 6, and the 5840, which brought that number to 55229. And again, these are environmental mitigation specific services that have already been invoiced. And then there were some additional invoices, some that we had, some that we knew were coming, some that weren't quite fully determined. But it brings that total up to the 64,409, which is at the bottom of that sheet we just gave out. 409. And then bringing that back to what the ask is here for Amendment 6. You're asking for a total of 104,000. That would be an increase in the CA budget to 65,000. Now, is that increase the increase is partially paying off previous invoices and setting you up for the additional remaining work?
Remainder of the project, correct.
Okay.
In this spreadsheet that I provided, you can see in the last column, it's kind of beige color, what the balance will be from after applying Amendment 6 and the invoices to date. And that is anticipated to get us through, and I gave you guys some comments there so you have an understanding. We talked a little bit about this last time, but we anticipate that the 25,000 should suffice to get us through the CA with anticipation that all we have is punch list items and River Road Pump Station, left to be constructed.
Do you have a copy of this, Cindy?
The 81,000 is observation, and that's gonna be more than plenty from what we know today to get us through the observation, and at the rate that we were progressing on the other work, I anticipate probably about half of that, if not more, would come back to you guys. So that will be good news. And then the additional services balance out at 11.
I'm sorry, Bill. The construction observation number here, that is funds that have already been approved. That's unrelated to Amendment 6, correct? Okay, I just want to make sure that was the case. Okay.
You're right.
Thank you.
And then additional services, 11,000. That would cover special inspections, which we had taken about 9,776 out of there. That was part of the original budget for special inspections. We don't anticipate that it's gonna come out to that much, so the hope is that we would have money that we would not expend in that line item as well. And then the last one was environmental, which I showed you in the other spreadsheet. We had 700 on the books that you'll see in the January invoice, and I think that at this point, there shouldn't be too much environmental administration work for us to do moving forward, so.
Okay,
We should
so-
really not need much of that, but it's there as a placeholder in case something comes up,
So the middle blue column on the left is applying the amendment 6 should it be passed, those
That's
numbers
correct.
in those places, and that would leads to the far column on the right, which would be balances after amendment 6 has been,
Correct.
okay.
Thank you.
How sure are you that the construction observation is going to be, will have a lot of money there, and like, I think you mentioned probably half would be left over?
Yeah, if you look back and just look at our track record per month, Christmas year, you know, that amount of time and that amount of cost per month, we anticipate River Road Pump Station to take another 2 months of construction.
Okay.
Obviously, we're not gonna bring him back on site until he's absolutely necessary, and before he had a number of things going on in the field, including Lyman Street Pump Station, some sewer work,
Yep.
so on and so forth, so, you know, with just the pump station going on and maybe checking up on punch lists, I expect that to be even a little less, so, that's why we would anticipate that.
Okay. So before I have some more thoughts, do you guys have any questions about the information? Do you feel like this is enough follow-up on what's going on to feel okay with approving Amendment 6? How are you guys feeling about the information?
Well, having missed the meeting last week, so, it certainly appears that the information's there, the due diligence has been done. It seems like they're all legitimate expenses, so I think we have to do something to.
Okay, and I don't think the question was never,
Right.
are we gonna pay or not, because these are services that have to be done, we get that. The question is, do we feel like we understand everything that's going on, what the charges have been, what the charges are gonna be, to approve Amendment 6?
I understand it better than I did last week.
Okay. Okay.
I certainly don't totally understand.
I've been following this for like 3 weeks, and I don't know if I get
I've been
everything yet.
reading the emails you've been sending, but I'm not an engineer, so I really can't qualify myself to
Play
say
one.
what should be billed and what's accurate and what's not.
Can I offer a suggestion, or I guess a question, Bill? One of the additions to Amendment 6 is another $30,000 in additional services for the environmental. Is there a way where instead of putting 30 more up, we could transfer 30 or maybe less than 30 out of the construction observation, and could that function as part of an amendment like this?
Yeah, in fact, I'll explain just a little bit, in case maybe anybody's just thinking but not asking. It took us a while to get to this point, and quite frankly, in the beginning, the hope for us, we don't like coming back here and asking for money any more than you wanna see us sit here. So, it's uncomfortable, and, you know, and we always like to see the project come to conclusion without having to do this, but, in the first couple of months, the hope was that we would just do that. In fact, we actually sent an amendment to you guys that transferred money from the construction observation budget into the other categories. As we got further along and we ran into some more issues, it appeared that, you know, that wasn't gonna cover us in full, and so this amendment was proposed. Certainly, you know, any way that you guys wanna see that, if you wanna take the balance of observation and move it down into there, we're comfortable with that. Quite honestly, at this point, we just want to be able to, you know, get to the end of the job. And I would say too, for what it's worth, if we were talking, you know, a small amount of dollars here, we would probably just eat it and stretch it until we got to the end, but for this amount of money, we really can't afford to do that. But yes, certainly to answer your question, if you wanna do it that way, that's fine, and we can either provide a revised amendment, or you can mark it up accordingly if you wanna do that. The one thing that I would say is that we've just been stretched out now for about 4 months. and I would just like to get to some resolution quickly, so.
Is the payment to Sterling, does it come out of the project cost, or is that out of the Honeywell funds?
Honeywell,
Yeah,
that's, in large part,
in large parts Honeywell.
in its entirety, the additional cost for Louisi for environmental mitigation, for J squared for environmental mitigation, as it turned out, the majority of the Sterling costs, those are all funded by the Honeywell settlement.
Yeah.
So why would you need environmental services for, that's 30,000 for,
Yeah, that is a question that came up last week, and what are we doing for that? And that was the itemization that Rich had sent via email, you know, just the tasks, the additional tasks and things that you take on when there's environmental remediation on a project. And much of it is coordination and making sure that the contractor's, you know, aware of what's going on and updates and different things while he's going through the environmental mitigation. And I would just say that the list is there. I don't know if you want me to go through that whole list of items. I can.
We got it.
I got it here, we need a copy, Ken.
I do have one question I think would be helpful for the board to understand too. Within the overall project budgets, and the current one was dated as of January 8th, I believe, there's a line item for contingency. Bill, do you have a sense of how much of that contingency amount is still left?
Yeah,
So the board can understand this overall project budget, and you did increase the overall bond resolution amount to address things in the fall. It's currently at 5.75 million. But that amount includes a fairly substantial contingency budget.
right.
That's there in case things come up. Otherwise, the base contract payments, absent change orders, the base contract payments are the payments, and you end up financing a lesser amount because you didn't dip into the contingency. You put the contingency in there because it's conservative to do that, things come up. So do you have a sense for the board?
There's about 300,000, 294,000 in this budget in contingency left. So we always show that when we update the budget, and we show the total anticipated project cost with contingency. As we do get change orders and things like that, you know, that dips into that contingency. So right now, construction wise, we're at about 4.2 million, you have about 300,000 in contingency, which represents about 7 or 8%. Being that all we have left is River Road Pump Station, we have the majority of the project completed. I'd say we're in very good shape as far as contingency goes.
Have we tapped into contingency yet at all?
I believe that we have for some of the change orders that are there, but on a minimal amount. And I can show you, every month when we do the pay app schedule, actually we give you guys, I think I had it last meeting, but I didn't bring it this meeting, but the construction costs has allowance items in it and change orders. And you'll be able to see that on that chart that we send out. And I can resend that to the board so you can see exactly where you stand contingency wise.
But the change orders are also listed here and they're itemized
They
here.
are.
So does that mean if they're here, then they haven't been tapped into the contingency?
No, that contingency, everything that you see in the budget is updated with all those potential costs. So what you're looking at is a worst case scenario. And like I said before, some of these potential costs, you know, we're still not certain, you know, I would recommend at this point we negotiate back to the contractor. This is just something that they've proposed right now. So, you know, what we wanted to show you is even if the worst case scenario and they have to be paid for some of these things, you still have 300,000 in contingency. The majority of which is gonna come back to the village for sure, so.
And come back to the village in terms of not needing to.
Right.
Not having to borrow,
Not
right,
needing-
right.
Not needing to go to long-term with that, correct.
Alright. Well, I know in my mind, especially with understanding everything a little bit more, I would like to see some money moved from construction observation to cover some of this here, so we're not putting new money up in a sense. Because it sounds very clearly like we have a lot of extra construction observation money that won't be spent. And it would be nice instead of to be putting this much money back, additionally on the table, we just basically transferred if we have funds we don't think are gonna be spent. Do you think 30,000 would be enough, to take out of the construction observation without the likelihood of running into?
Yeah, I think that would still be pretty conservative, cause it's gonna leave you with about 50,000 in observation, which should be enough. And that'll reduce the overall increase on the amendment, and it'll cover the 30,000, so yeah, that would be reasonable.
Okay, so then, if we're on page 5 of that amendment, do you have that amendment in front of you, Andy?
I'm getting it.
Alright. Chop chop, just kidding, love you. He puts up with my
Notice he
jokes, I
doesn't
love
even
it.
pay attention.
Doesn't even, he just in one ear out the other. I guess my thought would be, if this is what the board wants to do, to make this the document that represents, and it obviously won't be my marked up one, but we'll print a fresh one. With the change of, on page 5, where it lists out, in summary, in the middle of the page, the construction administration budget increase, additional service budget increase, new budget for environmental mitigation work, would be total 104,776, and then we would have some sort of comments about transferring 30,000 from construction observation to cover the new budget for environmental mitigation work, reduces it back down to 74,776. Would that work?
That would, we certainly
Yeah.
amend the proposed
Okay.
Amendment 6
Yep.
to reflect that it sounds like the then construction administration budget increase would be 35, is that correct?
Or we apply it to the environmental mitigation,
Oh, I
third
see.
one down, either
I
one.
got it, yeah, either one, but just note that change is being made to the amendment and as changed, I don't wanna say as amended.
Yeah, we'll actually reduce that amount in Exhibit K so that EFC understands, what's happening there, so
Yeah.
that,
Okay.
you know, so that
Yeah.
we'll do a revision there to show that.
So will then basically result in an increase of the 74,776.
Okay. How do you guys feel about that?
Yeah.
Alright.
Can we do that tonight?
Yeah, I think what we would do is I would assume, Andy, correct me if I'm wrong, with motion to authorize the mayor to sign, amendment 6 with the modification of transferring $30,000 from construction observation into the environmental mitigation work budget to lower the overall cost to 74,776.
Correct.
So,
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
did you get all that?
I did.
You're amazing. Alright, further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Alright, carries.
And I think
Great.
you're right, for
Thank
the
you.
clean record, it probably would make sense to send over that clean revised.
I will.
The mayor can then sign that, cause then it'll be easily understood.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, we have to make it clear for EFC, because they're gonna wanna see that.
Right.
change. So
okay.
This and Exhibit K will clarify that.
Alright,
Okay.
great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else from you, Mayor?
No, I think that's it.
Drive safely.
Yes, drive safe.
Thank
Drive
you.
safely.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay, on to new business. We have a few quick items. I don't think there's anything particularly crazy here. A couple small things to explain. I just gotta get all my forms together. First off, we have a village, we have election resolution. This is the resolution establishing date, location, and time of village elections for 2020. Whereas the Board of Trustees of the Village of Hoosick Falls seeks to establish the date and location of elections for village offices for 2020 and also times when polling will be open. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Village of Hoosick Falls in regular session duly convened as follows. 1. The Board of Trustees of the Village of Hoosick Falls hereby designates Wednesday, March 18th, 2020 as the date of the village election. And 2, the Board of Trustees of the Village of Hoosick Falls hereby designates the Ann Borns Municipal Building, 24 Main Street, Hoosick Falls, from noon until 9 p.m. as the location and time of the village election. Looking for someone to offer the resolution?
I'll offer.
Thank you, Ben.
Second.
Second by Craig. Any discussion on this? This requires a roll call vote, I'm assuming? Take it away.
Trustee Pine,
Yes.
trustee O'Malley,
Yes.
trustee Patton,
Yes.
trustee Lewis,
Yes.
trustee Marpy,
Yes.
Mayor Allen,
Yes.
and deputy mayor Ryan.
Yes.
Thank you.
Great. All right, and then we have a second resolution. This is for the UPSEU, Police Officers Union. This is basically in line with the changes we made when we approved the last contract. Resolution to provide the pension benefit of Section 384-D of the Retirement and Social Security Law. 20-year replacement plan for retirement plan. Sorry, replacement plan. That's not kind of how it would work for police officers. I'll just read it all briefly. Whereas Section 384-D of the New York Retirement and Social Security Law states that certain benefits provided therein shall be available to those police officers whose employer elects to provide such benefits through a duly adopted resolution. And whereas the Board of Trustees of the Village of Hoosick Falls desires to provide such benefits under Section 384-D of the Retirement and Social Security Law to the police officers employed by the village, now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Village of Hoosick Falls in regular session duly convened as follows. 1. The Board of Trustees of the Village of Hoosick Falls does hereby elect to provide the benefits set forth in Section 384-D of the New York Retirement and Social Security Law as presently and hereafter amended for any member of the Village Police Department who duly elects to enroll in this plan. And 2. The Board of Trustees of the Village of Hoosick Falls hereby directs that a certified copy of this resolution be filed with the Office of the New York State Comptroller. Looking for someone to offer the resolution.
I'll offer it.
Thank
Second.
you, Emily. Thank you, Ben. Andy, do you want to add anything? Besides, this is just a formal thing we have to do.
It is, again, this was negotiated as part of the current
Yep.
police union
And,
collective bargaining agreement.
And Elaine looked over the resolution, was
Yeah,
good with that.
to implement it, we just need the resolution and then a certified copy sent to the comptroller.
Alright, great. Unless
Roll
there's
call.
more discussion, roll call vote?
Trustee Pine,
Yes.
trustee O'Malley,
No. I
no,
vote no, because I voted against the
Yep, that's fine.
contract.
that's fine. Trustee Patton,
Yes.
trustee Lewis,
Yes.
trustee Marpy,
Yes.
Mayor Allen,
Yes.
and deputy mayor Ryan.
Yes.
Alright, great, thank you. Alright, discussion about discrepancy in a water bill due to an incorrect meter. If you guys see this cool thing I got to you, I'll explain this in really quick terms. The concern came up from the owner of this building that the water meter seemed high, so our water guys went out and checked, and sure enough, the wrong type of meter was installed. And this was they know exactly that the installation happened just around the beginning of the August 2017 billing cycle, which is why we started there. Basically, I want to say, was it a 1-inch meter installed, but it was supposed to be like a 3-inch meter or something like that. Had to do with, so it was registering way higher than it was supposed to. Denise, Marie, Judy, someone reached out to the company, and they actually have a conversion chart for if you have this meter installed and it's supposed to be this, here's what you do. And that correction factor was the 0.237. Yes. So what we have here is we have a list of 7 water meter readings. The top column is what each reading was sequentially through. The second column running across row, is the correction factor. The third is what the revised readings would be sequentially if you applied that. The fourth row down, corrected usage for bill period, that is what it should have been the whole time. So we were, in a sense, really overcharging it.
4 times.
Almost 4 times, yeah. Or a little over 4 times, actually, yeah. So the original water bill usage row is what he was charged. The corrected water usage charge is what he should have been charged. And the water credit is the monthly change of what it should be credited back to. The same thing goes for the sewer. It's a hefty amount. It's almost 8,000 over 7 bill periods, and it's water and sewer. We did a quick review of the law regarding refunds for the water meters, as we brought up, but this was a confirmed, what's the term I'm looking for? It wasn't a it was a mechanical issue on the meter. So this is something that falls under the it's okay to refund meters. So the question to put in front of the board is, are you okay with this refund? And the second follow-up question is, would you want it to be done as a credit to this account, a credit to all of the accounts this individual owns, or just write the check to get it all back to the owner?
Well, how does the owner prefer it?
I think the owner would prefer the check. I spoke with the village office about this. If we went with the credit approach, every bill period for the next probably 4 bill periods, they're going to have to apply credits and keep track of everything, which can be a pain.
I don't, if that's what the way he wants it back, I think that's the way it should go back. I mean, he paid that money out
Yeah.
of his pocket,
Did-
whether
did
he
he
had
pay
it
it?
or not.
Absolutely, yes. And part of the question was, how was this not noticed earlier? And it was a kind of a, well, I wasn't on it now, but I noticed now. And
Has the meter been corrected?
yes,
So we changed the meter?
As of when?
our guys changed the meter. Do you remember when they changed the meter?
I think it was shortly after he brought it up.
Yeah.
Got right onto it.
But the meter's been changed.
Yes.
Yes.
You know, as of,
And I think that they, the reason the December 19 bill is not there is because I think they reissued it with the correct numbers, and they've already told him that they're gonna waive the due date of like Thursday or whatever, to give him some time to.
To see what we're.
So, yeah, see where it was,
what the board was gonna
how it's gonna play out here.
They're not gonna charge, we're not gonna charge the penalty.
Right, right.
The
The penalty will be
penalty will go
waived, so that we could have the time to decide this.
Do we usually have like certified plumbers that put our meters in, or was that only when they first started doing the meter system?
I don't know. I feel like
How
our
do they
guys
have-
have been doing it.
Oh, no,
No, they had
no,
plumbers.
initially it was up to the resident, the homeowner had to
Have a
contract someone to put the meter in.
That was my understanding,
Oh.
to this day, I thought,
Yes.
still. we
Yes, the
supply
village has
it-
no responsibility for putting the
We
meter in.
supply the meter, and homeowner installs it.
And they agreed, there was,
Okay.
initially it was like a agreed upon rate of like $75 to $100, whatever, if I'm not
Flat rate.
mistaken.
You're right.
Ballpark like that, but I know some vary, some charge more than others, but.
so did we supply the wrong meter?
Yeah, how
Yes.
It seems that way.
There's meters that are made for 3/4 inch
Yeah.
pipe, which is standard, and then 1 inch pipe, and this is a 1 inch meter.
On a 3/4 inch line.
3/4 inch line.
So definitely, and so hence giving the skewed readings.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think it's fair for us to hold up this person's money. I mean,
No, I was just curious what, you know.
Mhm.
'cause
No,
I know,
I'm okay with it. It seems
Okay.
like the right thing to do. It seems like it was,
I mean, they paid money that,
Yeah.
that
They
was,
didn't
they were
know.
overcharged. It's no different than somebody else being overcharged for, you know, I mean, if you have a question with your tax bill,
Yeah.
you know, it's, you get the money back.
I mean,
I agree.
it's
Okay.
like Christmas in January.
Yeah.
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 so we
Savings.
need a motion to refund
The water price on the right and sewer price on the right for the address on the top and a, what's that?
Just one thing.
Yeah.
I do have to note that your local law dealing with this,
Yes.
and the record will note it's local law 2 of 2009, dealing with refunds.
Mm-hmm.
There is a line that says, where practical, justified refunds and/or abatements will be credited to the respective account, thereby declining the need for a cash refund. So your local law does, it does say where practical, but clearly the intent here was, when this comes up, to consider a
Just-
credit on
just a
future
credit.
bills,
Yeah,
not-
it's like
not-
Yeah.
$50, not 70.
Yeah, I think in this case,
Yeah.
the refund is much larger than the
Yeah.
bill, so I
Yeah.
don't think that's practical in this case to
But-
hold this money.
Just.
Mhm.
we'll
Yep, no,
defer
thank you
to
for
you.
bringing it up.
Yeah.
good to
Thank
know.
you, that's good. Alright, in that case, then I'm looking for a motion to refund the credits, to the address.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it. for what you
Alright,
said.
alright,
Whatever you say.
alright, so the motion is to, issue the
refund.
refund for water credit of, as written here, 380829, and the sewer credit of 390954 to the owner of 32 Cary Avenue. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Alright, motion carries, thank you. The next thing is Neil has a request to advertise for a new auxiliary generator for the new highway garage.
Denied. He's not here.
Do you have the specs for that?
I do.
So we basically just need a motion to advertise.
So my only question is, do both garages need generators on them?
It's in it for the new highway garage.
It's for the new one.
It's for the new garage.
But does the old one have a generator?
The old.
And will it still need its generator when the new one's open?
I don't know that.
Denied.
I'm
Just
thinking
a
it's
question.
old
I don't think the old one has a generator.
I don't remember seeing one around there, but.
I know the water plant has one.
So why does the garage need a generator? We should ask that question. If it doesn't have one now, why does the new one need one?
Because it's new.
I mean, I'm not saying no. I'm just that's a
No.
question. I think we.
It wasn't in the original
They
specs
want more
either.
toys.
There was confusion about the generator in the original specs. The original specs somehow had a generator that only powered the lights and heat and 0 outlets, which means in a case of an emergency and there's no power, they would have lights and heat and no ability to use a computer or charge a device, which, as I learned in the flood, are really important things to have in an emergency.
Oh.
I mean, what size generator are we talking about here? Like a. Is that?
Industrial diesel generator, 80
How many kilowatts?
kilowatts, 80, 4.5 L. I don't know what that is because I'm not an
Pass it down,
electrician,
Craig.
but that is the specs that came over.
He knows a few things.
No, I mean, it's probably reasonable, and this isn't a small generator, though. This is a
Right.
substantial
It's like
generator.
for,
So
right, for,
I'd like to know what we're trying to run off of this generator to justify. If the old building didn't have one, I mean, you can get a lot smaller generator than that to run a PC.
do we have a ballpark price of something like this?
I
Or
have
is it just
no
putting-
idea.
I know it's going out for bid,
And-
but I
and-
didn't know if it was.
You know, maybe we.
Is this something we can table until the next meeting?
It sounds that
When
way. I
Neil's
mean,
back?
I know the
Well,
highway garage.
It's, the highway garage is not gonna be up and running by the end of by the next month, so.
Right.
Motion to table.
I think Neil, if Neil was here, we could answer these questions real quick and.
That's no problem.
That's what he gets for being on vacation.
Yeah, how dare he? How dare he?
Alright,
Alright, so is
motion by
there a
Ben,
motion?
I motion to table.
Second,
Thank you, Craig.
Craig.
Second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
If you'd like me to, I can reach out to Neil tomorrow and ask him.
While he's on
I want you to
vacation.
do that because I don't want to. I don't want to have him yelling at me
wanna-
when that goes
wanna
through.
I know where he is.
Bubble.
thanks very much, we talked to him today.
So in talking with the ladies in the office, I discovered that the folder they use for folding all $1,400 or $1,500 water bills that go out every 4 months is something where you have to feed 3 papers in at a time and stand there and feed another 3 and another 3, and that didn't seem like the best use of their time. So I looked first into a machine that folded and stuffed into the envelopes. Unfortunately, those start at about $4,500, which is whoa. But I did find a folding machine. I found a few, and we talked through potential models, and we all liked the size and look of this one, the Formax FD300. I quoted a few prices. I found Whittaker Brothers $630, Global Industrial $631, and Staples had it $649. But I found a $25 off $100 coupon because that's how I roll.
What Amazon
Love
have
it.
for?
Amazon sold it through individuals, and it was higher.
Now,
So
sometimes too, you can get your copier, if you're upgrading your copier with a folder included in your copier.
that's true. We looked into upgrading copiers, and that was really expensive too. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So this is what we're asking. I think if we go through Staples, that's fine. It saves us a few dollars. That's cool. But we've already figured out where it's going to go next to the mail machine, and they're all very excited at the possibility of not having to stand over the copy machine or the 3-page folder for a day and a half.
It also jams, and you have to take it apart and unscrew the back and
I'm so sorry.
play with the tags and
I
then.
don't think you
I'll
have to
make
make
a
it sound that bad.
I'll
Wish I had-
second
I
it.
think we're all.
Wish I had known this was a thing
We're
earlier.
done
Yeah.
Staples.
Yeah.
We're not making that up.
That's why you know how handy
Go
we
get
are.
it tomorrow.
Okay. So
We have a
motion.
Craig and Emily seconded.
To is this I'm assuming to
Sorry,
approve the
Doug.
Staples one.
Staples it is.
Staples.
For Staples, all right. All in
We want that
favor?
coupon used.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? carries, thank you.
I'm still gonna hang
That's
on,
what you get for not being on vacation.
hang on to
Let
that.
Neil know how smoothly that went for you
We're
because you
gonna
were
hang on to
here.
that screwdriver just in case.
I did want to announce, and I had mentioned this earlier over email, but I haven't announced it publicly. We went for that grant to put a UV filtration system down at the wastewater treatment plant. It was through one of the state things. I can't find the announcement because it's so well hidden in Cuomo's page of announcements and press releases. But we did get that, which is a huge deal because we would have to have installed UV filtration by 2022 as a requirement for the speedies permit for the state. What this will do, originally we had it designed with MRB. We brought it to Robert Flores of Delaware Engineering because he was the one who designed a lot of the current wastewater treatment system to begin with. He looked it over, made a couple recommendations on how to do it differently to save on long-term costs. And that was the plan we submitted to the state, and it got approved. So over the next couple months, we'll be meeting with Robert Flores and figuring out how to approach that and so on and so forth. But
So was this the grant, was this funding the actual construction, or was this
Yes.
the? Good.
Yes.
Do you have a dollar amount with that, Mr. Mayor?
That's what I'm
That's what I'm
Well, you
gonna
can't
ask.
trying to find. I want to say it was like $900,000 or $1 million, but I really can't find it, and I'm really angry about it for not being able to
That's
find
okay,
it.
we can look for it later.
I will look for it and I'll put something on the webpage. But
The one that doesn't work? Yeah.
I want to say it was like,
Approximately $1 million.
I think so. I'm gonna be
Winning.
kicking myself if I got that wrong, but I'm gonna keep
So,
looking for
The
that.
press could report, approximately $1 million.
$60 million? No, don't.
With some
don't
question
worry.
marks after it.
So yeah, it's a really good thing, and I'm excited about having Robert Flores on.
Yes.
He is very familiar with our wastewater treatment plant, and I think that as more things progress with the wastewater treatment plant and the landfill, I'm glad to have him aboard helping us out. So, all right, I'll find official numbers for you guys and email you those. Unless you have any other business, I am looking for a motion to enter executive session for the purpose of discussing potential litigation.
Motion?
Second.
Ben and Emily, further discussion?
No, better.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we officially enter executive session at 8:08 p.m.